All right, y'all, a little late getting on here personally, but we are dealing with Flash Chat, the last Flash Chat ever. Lord have mercy. Okay. All right. So I'm reading your tweets. This is from Johnny Torch. It's about what he expected, really. So, what did you expect, Johnny? Because we are talking about that series finale last night of The Flash. And for a lot of people, it was much bigger. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But see, what happened last night was much bigger than just the end of The Flash, because it's the end of the Arrowverse, the end of an era. That's the thing. In an era that a lot of people, the significance of the Arrowverse is that for a lot of people, it was the only exposure to these DC heroes that they had. Where am I? Am I live on here? All right, hold on. Okay, so y'all can see me on the screen, right? I'm trying to be sure I'm everywhere I need to be. Okay. Steve Seller said at Shadewing was better than I expected, but that's not a compliment. I wasn't expecting much. Okay. So could they have done better? Okay. I'm really not quite sure what I was expecting, to be honest. I went into it, I guess, a little bit hesitant, just a little bit hesitant, trying to hope that they were able to pull something off of quality, trying to hope that maybe they could do something satisfactory. But it was a lot to try to do with the 4 episodes that they used in terms of Eddie's arc. So in doing Eddie's arc, that was all good, but that should have been much more, as a matter of fact, should have been much more than the last 4 episodes. All right. Okay. All right. I just want to be sure I'm coming up on the Twitter stream because I didn't see myself. Okay. So Johnny George said, I've been with it from the beginning. It improved at first from Meryl's humble beginnings, but I think most would agree the quality declined at some point. The pandering to shippers to obviously woke storylines took their toll. I think it's the right time to end. Now, I'd have to agree with that. Although they had great possibilities for relationships on this show, they just blew it. Okay. I do not think, because I'm looking at it from a writer's point of view, I do not think that having the different relationships between the characters or even the main character and love interest is a bad thing. It's just the way you use it. It's the way you use it. If it becomes the focus, and that's what happened to Arrow, if the whole focus actually becomes that relationship, that love interest, and here's the second part. What do you do if you pick 2 characters that don't have the best chemistry? You know what's going to happen? Every time the characters with the right chemistry come on the screen, they're going to overshadow the main couple you're trying to push. That does not fail. Okay. Okay. Now we're on question 3, talking about, are you familiar with Malcolm Thawne from the comics? In the comics, Cobalt Blue was Malcolm Thawne. He was actually Barry Allen's biological twin brother. And he got stolen and given to the Thawne family, but they're actually brothers in the comics. I personally like that storyline. I know It's soap opera-ish, but I think it gives it punch for the same reason that when Vader reveals himself as Luke's father, I know it's not on that level, but the idea is the same. When you find out that there's a family member you didn't know you had, it's one of those things, one of those tropes that I think it's been used so much now that perhaps it's cliche, but I still really liked it. Because if you know anything about the backstory with Malcolm, he was abused. There's a reason he was angry and quote unquote evil. So I mean, there's some, how can I say it? There's some bite to it. There's some teeth to it. There's some real emotional hooks there that would have made a difference had they used that. I didn't dislike the emotional hook of Eddie wanting his life back, but it would have been more of a shock had they actually been brothers. Okay. Lady Spencer Eagle at MSE Cosplay says it was as sugary sweet as I expected. Answering was a finale what you expected. Okay, I have a question dealing with that coming up a little bit later on in the flash chat, but it was super sweet. It was like almost Hallmark sweet. You know what I'm saying? It was just like wow. So So we're going to talk about the speedsters, the Legion of Zoom, as they were referred to. We're going to talk about that in a minute, about just what kind of weight did all those villains bring. Okay, Tom, Green Flash 2814. Well, I was aware that I was it's been a good character moment. Yeah, see, Tom, that's what I agree with. I agree completely. It would have given it a different set of stakes. You know what I'm saying? Like if Eddie's fighting to get his life back, which I really like, that's one thing. But if they're actually brothers and they love the same woman, because how would they be brothers? Do they have the same bio parents? Because that whole thing with Joe semi-adopting Barry and the whole weird relationship between Barry and Iris, that could have been a whole nother level to play about. See, that's why, because I said from the beginning, this this arc, Eddie's arc, should have been all season long. All season long, we should have been seeing this stuff going on with Eddie and these ideas developing. And then if we had included his background, that would have been incredible. Okay, Flash by Night Comics, TJ Future CPA says it was less than what he expected because he expected all of the happy ending character stuff, but the villains in conflict got shortchanged. Okay. Completely agree. I couldn't even believe they were the same villains. Actually, Thawne, but I'll get to that in a minute. But I could not believe those were the villains we had seen before on this show. Okay. Oh, okay. Steve said on because my question for was, my hot take was, I was actually rooting for Eddie to have the life he wanted. He always belonged with Iris. Agree or disagree? Steve said, my joking answer, Steve Seller, Shadewind says, my joking answer is that Barry did him a favor because nobody deserves the fate of being with Iris. Ooh, that deserves an ouch gift. My serious answer is that Eddie probably should have been with Iris, especially if it meant Barry ending up with Caitlin. I agree completely. Y'all know that I am Barry and Caitlin to my core. They should have always been together. I think Grant and Danielle were going to pursue it in the first season, but they decided not to. But they should have, because you can't fake chemistry. And when you saw Iris and Eddie together, they were so happy, but it was relaxed, very natural. And they both said, screw the future. Even knowing what the future held, they decided in real time that they'd rather be together as a couple. They should have gone with that and not had Barry hook up with his sister. But anyway. Okay, Mikey Flash, my boy Mikey, the Mikey Flash says, on answer 2, I think the Arrowverse was already dead. It died the minute shipping the characters and giving more screen time to lame secondaries became more important than telling a story about the title heroes. Okay, every word of that is on point. Every word is correct. There are no lies detected. Okay, the Arrowverse died when we decided that shipping should be the focus instead of a part of an ongoing hero narrative. And also, when we decided that focusing on the secondary characters, everything that's going on with Team Flash, everything that's going on with the background characters, when we decided that that was the thing to do, that was absolutely the end of the Arrowverse as we knew it. I'm sad to say. Very sad to say. Okay, about the question about Eddie getting the life he deserved or getting the life he lost. Mikey Flash, the Mikey Flash says, I think he deserved better, and I think the show could have been served better by having he and Iris together for a while and have Barry explore other relationships. They shoved them together in season 3, and there's nowhere to go to grow after that. I would have a tendency to agree with all of that as well. Okay, now have y'all not been hearing me this whole time? I hope you've been hearing me because I've been talking this whole time. Looked like something was wrong with my mic, but hopefully we got that together. Okay, anyway. Okay, Tom says, Green Flash 2814. Yeah, part of me was rooting for Eddie. There was an underdog story since the universe was so against him, but he was still willing to fight for his life. I agree with that as well. I agree with that as well, because what happened was that kind of my sentiment about Eddie shifted when they made his storyline be about losing the life he could have had, because he and Iris would have been happier together and they were a better fit. And like Tom is saying here, the universe was so against him. So it looked like the deck was stacked against Eddie. And it looked like that the harder Eddie tried, the more problems he got into. So I agree that Eddie should have had a better ending than that. Okay. 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 Now I'm responding to Michael Moreno. Michael 564-10717. I've heard of that, but should he have been Barry's twin brother for the final episode, or is it better that they didn't go that route? And the answer to that question is, as far as I'm concerned, is that it should have been all season long building to a reveal. Do you know how hard it is to talk and type at the same time? But anyway, it should have been all season long building to a reveal. Okay, I do think we should have gone with the long lost brother angle, but it shouldn't have come out of nowhere. It should have been hints at it and all that. But right there towards the end, it should have dropped as far as I was concerned anyway. All right, Carrie in, Miss Carrie04, Flash Chat is back. And what we're doing today is I'm doing the series finale of The Flash. Now, a lot of people have asked me why I stopped doing Flash Chat. I stopped doing Flash Chat because honestly, I ran out of questions. The show became very formulaic. The show became something to where it was doing the same thing with every show. Barry would be in the opening teaser. They would set up a situation. He wasn't fast enough. He failed, whatever. And then it would shift to the secondary characters for most of the rest of the episode. Barry comes back on in the last segment, and he didn't use his speed to win. He normally tried to talk the villain into giving up. And that just ignores flashbacks and just ignores everything that's central to the character of Barry Allen and the Flash. So after a while, it was literally the same show on loop. So I just ran out of questions to ask. That's why I stopped doing Flash Chat. But I said I wanted to come back for the series finale and do this one. Okay, Johnny George says, yeah, I really didn't know what to make of that. Keone and her whole goddess arc. I think they had an interesting storyline going with her, but ultimately she didn't have any important resolution to the character beyond giving Barry one of the impacted CW hero pep talks. Keone as a goddess with such a reach. Now I know it's based on real mythology in terms of the Keone character, but I mean her presence on Team Flash. I just can't, she didn't belong there as far as I was concerned. So it's good to know that she realized that at the end, but she never really did belong there. So, I don't really know what they were going for with that. If they were just setting up something to make sure we got Caitlin back at the end, there are better ways to do that. And Caitlin's boyfriend or partner or whatever that dude was, it was crushing on Frost. That's Frost's boyfriend, that's right. Useless. Okay, absolutely useless. Okay, Steve Sellers said, Shadewind says, this was my first exposure to Keone, having skipped a large chunk of the show. So my reaction was, okay, that was the thing that happened. I had no investment in her at all. Okay, agree with every word of that as well. She was out of place from the beginning. Plus, she had Keone ex machina powers. So in other words, they said she was a goddess and they said she was an elemental and all that. Okay, but literally what she did was her powers morphed into whatever the situation called for. So whatever they needed at the time, that's what her powers became. And I was like, really, y'all? Really? That was just really frustrating. Okay, because it takes away the tension. There's no tension if you have a godlike being. They can just whip up whatever answer they need. Okay, all right. Okay, Flash by Night Comics, TJ Future CPA says, in terms of was it time for the Flash and Arrowverse to end? He says, I think it was about time. I think the storytelling was fine, but less impactful over time. Also, it may be the last of the super long superhero format. 20 plus episodes over 8 to 9 seasons is a problem, in particular for superhero shows. Okay, I agree partially. The part I agree with is that 20 episodes over 8 to 9 seasons is a problem if you don't know how to write story arcs for that long. If you know how to write story arcs on that scope and in that size, it's not a problem. Okay, so if you know how to write multiple seasons like that, if you know how to pace your development, and if you know how to keep the focus on the main character, because the main character is the one on the marquee. The main character is the one that you used to get us to watch the show. The main character is the one that you used to draw us in. And then all of a sudden, it's about everybody else but the main character. I'm tired of that. I'm absolutely tired of that. Okay. All right. In terms of my question six, I said, okay, I was amazed at the difference in chemistry between Barry and Keon and Barry and Caitlin. Did anybody else notice that? Was that bad writing or good acting? The Mikey Flash says, I think it was a natural reaction to what we felt too. None of the characters really got to connect with Keon because there was no reason to. Caitlin, on the other hand, has been there from the beginning. Okay, that's right. What Mikey said is right. And it's well said. There was no reason. There was no reason to connect to Keon. She was in Caitlin's body. She looked like Caitlin with the blue hair streaks and all that. But Keon, from the beginning, was literally in her own world. Okay? From the beginning, she was literally in her own world. She was in her own head. She was in her own energy. She was in her own everything. So, I mean, how do we connect with her? Think about it this way. If Keon hadn't looked like Caitlin, if Keon hadn't been in Caitlin's body, would we have connected or cared about her at all? See, that's the thing. Okay, Steve Shadewing says that was actually good acting. I'm saying I think the chemistry between them is undeniable. So it was good to see the difference because both of them had to really go against their natural chemistry as Barry and Keon, because that was just kind of flat. But anyway, also in question 5, I said, did it really just give Goddess Keon a Wesley Crusher Dark Phoenix ending? So in other words, Will shows up as a time traveler, tells her it's time for her to ascend. I was like, really? Are they really doing this? And so then she just de-reses and becomes one with the universe, I guess, or she ascends to some type of celestial plane where she's going to watch over the balance of nature and all that. So my question was, if she was all that, what was happening before she manifested? Before she shows up and takes over Caitlin's body, who was watching the balance then? And I'm not even talking about during the Flash, and I'm not even talking about the 9 seasons of the Flash. I'm talking about generally in the CW DC universe, if that was the level of character she was. You see what happens when you start mixing terrestrial characters and celestial characters, but the connection isn't really written well. It's not really there like it's supposed to be. Okay, now here's somebody who's not even a shipper talking about the chemistry between Grant and Danielle. Johnny Torch says, yeah, that brought me back to the days of the Snowberry shippers. Everybody kind of forgot about the great chemistry between these two actors until this scene brought it all back. Exactly. Exactly. You cannot hide or squash good chemistry, and you cannot make bad chemistry come up to the level of good chemistry because it's natural. There's a natural component. It's instinctual, okay? It's not something you can fake, even with acting, because the actors are human, okay? And that natural chemistry that they have comes through in their performances. You can't hide it. Okay, question 7, I said this right here. I know Carlos had scheduling conflicts, I know, but was the lack of Cisco in this finale absolutely glaring to anyone else? Mikey Flash says the fact that his name isn't even mentioned is very telling. We get a whole Powers moment with Chester, and Cecile gets her moment with Godspeed, but Cisco, who started it all, can't even get a name drop. Low class. Okay, ouch, and correct. Man, I was just waiting for them to just mention his name. Too bad Cisco could have been here, but would they have had to pay him for that? Maybe they didn't want to pay, so they didn't say anything. But I don't know. But they should have at least, because remember, Cisco was the one that made Barry's original suit. He was, part of OG Team Flash that started this journey with them. So he should have at least been mentioned, and his contributions to getting them through the season should have been mentioned as well. Okay, Ashley, which is, she used the @ symbol as the first letter. So it looks like Shy, yes, please, but it's actually Ash, yes, please. For this particular family, I think more focus should have been on Barry against the Speedsters, maybe, but my perfect finale would have had to erase like the last 6 years to accomplish. So, okay. And I, too, was looking forward to the idea of Barry leveling up to fight all those speedsters, but it was apparently Team Flash's moment and not Barry's. In the finale, should have been Barry. I understand, Barry was dealing with Eddie and everything, but in the series finale, that type of ending should have been all Barry's. Those type of moments, if they weren't all Barry's, it should have been mainly Barry as far as I was concerned. Okay, Sarah Holiday _ Sarah says to question one in terms of her expectations. It could have been better. I like that Barry was running, though. I think I expected a little bit more focus on Barry and Caitlin since we couldn't have Cisco. Okay, I agree with that too. OG Team Flash is what hooked us on this show. If you think about it, the thing that we really like, longtime hardcore fans of the Flash, has definitely been because of Team Flash. That was a hook. So we should have had that represented in large quantities. Okay. I think Tom, Green Flash 2014, on the chemistry between Barry and Caitlin, I think it has to do with how awkward Barry was and should have been feeling around her. From Barry's point of view, he never got to patch things up with Caitlin until the finale. He probably was not expecting her return. Okay, I'll agree with that. To answer 7 about Cisco, Shadewing says, while I won't miss Cisco naming half the villains on the show, I think he should at least have been mentioned, especially with the whole found family thing that were going on in the second half of the episode. I agree with that completely too. His corniness was often over the top, but he deserved name drop and OG team credit because he really did. So, like I said, that was really glaring to me that they don't even mention Cisco. All right. Okay, I'm trying to get to some other questions we haven't asked already. Okay, on question 5, when I asked about did Keon just really get the goddess ending, the Dark Phoenix ending, where she ascends to another plane. Ashley says, honestly, all I cared about was that it brought Caitlin back to us. And I have to say, that did surprise me. Okay. I wasn't expecting it. I'm glad it happened, but I wasn't expecting for Caitlin to come back. And also, if they were going to bring Caitlin back, I thought they was going to bring Frost back too, but I guess they left her dead. So now I got to deal with this right here. Hold on. I think I skipped a question or two, but hold on. Okay. Here we go. The question about Nora. I don't care what kind of story rules they were using. Don't care. Okay. Nora should not be there for her own birth or be holding herself. That's against Speed Force rules. Okay. I couldn't believe that. I'm like, that's against time travel rules. You know, in every type of sci-fi scenario, very rarely do you get to encounter yourself and there aren't dire consequences. The whole thing about Back to the Future was that Marty changed the past the first time on accident, but they had to go back in the sequel to fix all the stuff, but also not to mess up the original timeline. And when Jennifer ran into herself and she was old. And what I'm trying to say is that every time you meet yourself in time travel, it tends to be not a good thing. Here Nora is all chill, all relaxed, there for her own birth and holding herself as I'm like, no. Just no. Everything about that was, I was like, what? I mean, the universe should have flown apart, or there should have been some type of spatial anomaly, or it should have created an evil version of herself, or there should have been, although that baby was super cute, I have to give it to Baby Nora. Baby Nora was super cute with the purple light. Yeah, that was great. But there should have been some type of consequence for that kind of thing. Seriously. Golden 4772, Paragon of Reality, said, this is a major argument I have against time travel. I agree. The paradox violation is way too strong here, because it is. It's just way too strong here for you to be holding your newborn self. I don't care what kind of Speed Force time travel universe stuff you're doing. Okay, Tom says, Green Flash 2814, when the legends are in the same time as themselves, let alone interacting, time breaks. That's right. Every evil speedster gets screwed for messing with time, but Nora has no consequences. Oh man, agree with every word. It's like, you know, and this is something that, you know, I know some people have issues with, you know, geekdom, and I don't care. And that is that if you're going to establish the rules of a story world, you have to stay with it. You have to stay with it. Okay. All right. Now, Joel Shulkin, MD medical thriller author, Dr. Joel Shulkin, says the time race were conspicuously absent for quite a few paradoxes like this. Not to mention, they never seemed to care about the messes the legends made with the timeline. But that's because Barry went back in time and changed the Speed Force rules multiple times. Okay, see, I have been saying that all along. The time race practice selective outrage. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The time race practice selective outrage. Okay, they're billed as, you know, the guardians of the time stream, and how they get mad whenever the time stream is messed with, and, you know, somebody has to pay, and there's got to be consequences, and they will hunt you down, and they will make you Black Flash, the Black Rider. They will draw the life out of your body. But Nora's just no, can't take it. So Shadewing says, what's worse is that they intentionally lampshade this and the writers just shrug their shoulders about the whole issue. Note to writers, lampshading doesn't address the problems. They just tell the audience you don't care. That's another ouch and correct. Ouch and correct. Okay, question 9. Admitting up front that this question is totally nitpicking, but why wasn't Cobalt Blue's lightning blue? Tom says, it annoyed me that negative Speed Force lightning was only red. I get the no blue since that was Zoom's color, but we could have tweaked it. But come on, it would have been awesome to have Eddie ignite the air around him with blue flames. That would have been unique. That's right. Steve says, good question. I don't remember who it was, but someone said that Flash powers came across as Jedi powers on the show. I think it's red because villain bad powers must look evil. TJ Future CPA Flash by Night Comic says, I thought that the entire time. I'm like, there's no way you have Cobalt Blue on and his lightning isn't blue. You could have tweaked it to look different from Zoom's. You could have added a blue and white element to it since his costume is blue and white to make it, give it the blue and white streak. You could have done something to differentiate it, but having it be red was, what? That didn't make any sense. Okay, question 10. This is the big kahuna. Was it just me, or did all of the evil speedsters being defeated so easily just negate them and make their previous threat level rather meaningless? This is what jumped out to me, because when I first saw all those speedsters being gathered, I was like, because let me tell you what I thought was going to happen. What I thought was going to happen was that Barry was going to have to level up, and he was going to go to a new level of speed we've never seen him do before. He was going to be able to access the Speed Force at a higher level in order to defeat all those speedsters. And then they all get beaten. Most of them get beaten inside of 3 minutes, which made it feel like all of the drama and all of the conflict and all of the stuff we went through in other seasons was meaningless if they could be beaten that easily by members of Team Flash, no less. Barry is the only one that really got, his behind kicked by Eddie as usual. Okay, Tom says, it makes me think that this finale should have been 2 episodes, one to deal with the evil speedsters and one to take on Cobalt Blue. On the other hand, I understand it was done to emphasize how strong each member of Team Flash has become, but it still undermines Barry. That's why it should have been all season long, and each speedster got 1 episode. So if they were going to do this, then what should have happened was each of those individual speedsters should have got 1 episode to have the final fight and be dispatched. You follow what I'm saying? The Mikey Flash says it absolutely did, meaning negate them. I cite Nora defeating Savitar by phasing when she was stabbed. Barry was adept at phasing by season 3, but somehow that didn't help him defeat Savitar. Iris had to shoot him in the head, which is a mind bender in its own way. That's right. If you remember how Savitar originally got defeated, remember who Savitar is under that armor too. He's a time remnant, that whole thing. That's not the real Savitar, but I will talk about that later. Steve says, absolutely, the evil speedster should have been a massive threat that should have given Team Flash nightmares. That's right. That's right. But they were all nerfed to rush them off the stage with no casualties whatsoever. People seem to die, except they don't. It's an unearned happy ending. Johnny Torch says, I agree, but I think the idea that Eddie was absorbing their powers into himself is what actually defeated them. They really should have spread these last 4 episodes over the entire season instead of saddling us with 4 or 5 filler episodes. Again, agree. The entire season was what was needed for this ending, not this kind of rushed thing with nerfed villains. Okay. Question 11. This finale took no chances. I mean, it was over in 30 minutes and the rest was happy endings for all involved. What chances do you think it should have taken? Okay, I really thought somebody major was going to die and stay dead, like when they killed Chester, but I mean, I don't really care about him and he's whatever. But I thought there was going to be at least 1 major significant death. I thought that was going to happen in terms of the chances they should have taken. And I really thought really thought that after Nora was born, Eddie was going to steal her. Eddie was going to steal her and take her to a dimension that Barry couldn't find her, or turn her evil, or grow her up, or time phase her, or something. Something. I thought Eddie was going to do something like that. Okay, Tom says off the top of my head, maybe actually seeing a new world in the New World arc. And obviously it would be different from main reality, like say this is where Eddie wins. We all knew Nora would have been born and that ultimately Barry would survive, but some of the secondary should have died just to give it scope, excuse me. Chester and Allegra dying together would have had an emotional impact, as it would have cut their future together short. That's true. That's true. Somebody needed to die to give the story more stakes, especially with Wells killing Chunk. It seemed like it was conveniently reversed with a happy ending. Also, I don't like it that Reverse Flash used lightning. His patent pending hand knife, super speed hand knife, is way scarier and way better, as far as I'm concerned. All right, final question, because I got to wrap up here. This has been great. I knew this was going to go fast, though. My final question is, do you think we'll ever see Grant Gustin as Barry Allen again? Conway Kal-El, Zigzag speaks. If Keaton can come back at 30 years, as long as he's alive, I say it's a possibility. I would love for them to do TV movies like they did with The Incredible Hulk. I agree with that wholeheartedly. That sounds like a lot of fun, because I really think that Gustin, his portrayal won us over. His portrayal was not Barry. It was much more leaning towards comic book quality, but I'll deal with that later. But I do agree that what he did give us was heartwarming, and great actor, great guy, great character, great portrayal, and it warmed our hearts. We bought it. And so I'd definitely like to see him in the role again. Mikey Flash says, I think he's finished personally. He clearly enjoyed his time, but he's made it clear he's ready to move on. I think a cameo in the film DCU might be needed at some point, but I don't see it happening. I think it might happen. Remember, Amell said the same thing, but after a while he missed it and came back. I think Grant will too. I just think they needed a break. I think a lot of people, because when you're working 16-hour days, Lord have mercy, for, months at a time, I just think Grant, needed a break. I do think he'll come back. To quote Caitlin, Tom says, to quote Caitlin from season 1, I hope so. Okay, good. All right, y'all, I'm going to have to call it there, but I'm going to keep reading your answers on Twitter and keep responding, but I got to call the live chat right now. So thank you so much for participating in this last Flash Chat. I really appreciate it. You guys know that on YouTube, I got a comment on YouTube, Team Forward said, this show went from great show to an embarrassment. And that is unfortunately true. That is unfortunately true, because the first season of The Flash was must-see TV. Couldn't miss it. Should miss it. Would miss it. We changed our schedules to be able to watch this show, but it just didn't keep up that same level of quality, and that's a shame. I think that's the biggest heartbreak that everybody has, that we didn't get the same quality all the way through. Okay, so like I said, I got to go for now, but thank you so much, and I'm going to continue to look at your answers and respond on Twitter, but I got to get off the live chat for now. So thank you so much. Don't forget to check out the next episode of The Rant Room, which is going to drop tomorrow on my YouTube channel, DT2 Comic Chat, at 12 noon. Check out the next episode of The Rant Room that's going to drop tomorrow, DT2 Comic Chat, on my YouTube. I will talk to you, everyone, later.